biodiversity of our on earth. Then we come to the topic of why biodiversity is being decreasing, being destroyed. What are the threats of biodiversity? First threat to biodiversity is habitat loss or degradation. Habitat of the living organisms is forest. We are destroying forest. We are doing deforestation for making our industries, for making dams, etc. And this thing is destroying their habitat, is destroying their shelter, their food, etc. So biodiversity is being lost. Second reason is overhunting or poaching. Hunting means killing of the animals. It is of three types: subsistence hunting, sport hunting, and commercial hunting. Subsistence hunting means hunting for food and safety. An animal is approaching a person for to kill it, and if the person is killing that animal, that will be called as subsistence hunting. Or hunting for food is also a subsistence hunting. Second is sport hunting. This is hunting for enjoyment, for recreation. And commercial hunting, सबसे ज़्यादा लार्ज स्केल पे कॉमर्शियल हंटिंग होती है. इट इज़ फॉर obtaining economic and benefits from the dead animals, like elephants are killed for ivory. That is commercial hunting. This is the at largest scale. Third threat to biodiversity is climate change. Our climate is changing. Average temperature on earth is changing, so conditions are not becoming suitable for the living organisms to survive. Resource mismanagement. Natural resources are being over exploited by the human beings. So biodiversity is being lost. Invasion, next reason is invasion of non-native or exotic species. Exotic species वो species है which have been brought from any other country to our country, जो हमारी country से में किसी और country से आई है, which is non-native of our country, that is exotic species. Many times it happens that exotic species start harming endemic species. जैसे मॉरिशियस में डोडो बर्ड एक्सटिंक्ट हो गया. एक तो रीज़न उसका हंटिंग तो है ही, सेकंड रीज़न उसका है कि दे इंट्रोड्यूस्ड पिग्स इन देयर कंट्री. उन्होंने पिग्स को इंट्रोड्यूस करवाया. पिग्स उनकी कंट्री की एग्जॉटिक स्पीशीज़ थी. दे स्टार्टेड ईटिंग एग्स ऑफ दैट डोडो बर्ड. ड्यू टू दैट dodo birds were extinct from that country. Second example, Galapagos Islands. Grasslands were destroyed in that country because they introduced goats in their country. Next reason is natural calamities like flood, earthquake. These are also destroying a lot of animals and plants on earth. Pollution. Living organisms can't live in a polluted environment, means polluted water, fishes will die. If air is polluted, living terrestrial organisms will die. If soil is polluted, the animals living there like microbes, beetles, they will be harmed. So next reason is overgrazing. Overgrazing result in making desert areas on earth, in deserts area are increasing due to overgrazing, and desert area animals can't survive. Then we come to the topic of threatened species. Threatened species are the species which are in हाई रिस्क ऑफ एक्सटिंक्शन, जिनका ख़त्म होने का खतरा है। ये 3 तरह की हैं: क्रिटिकली एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़, the species whose 70 to 90% population is declined, 70 to 90% population जिनकी ख़त्म हो चुकी है, वो क्रिटिकली एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़ की कैटेगरी में आएंगे। सेकेंड कैटेगरी ऑफ थ्रेटन्ड स्पीशीज़ इज एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़, the species whose 50 to 70% population is declined, वो स्पीशीज़ जिनके 50 to 70% पॉपुलेशन ऑर्गेनिजम्स ख़त्म हो चुके हैं, वो एंडेंजर्ड स्पीशीज़ की कैटेगरी में आएंगी। और थर्ड है वल्नरेबल स्पीशीज़। वल्नरेबल स्पीशीज़ इस टाइम जिनकी 30 to 50% पॉपुलेशन ख़त्म हो चुकी है, वो वल्नरेबल स्पीशीज़ की कैटेगरी में आएंगी। वर्ल्ड की थ्रेटेड स्पीशीज़ का जो रिकॉर्ड रखा गया है, एक बुक के अंदर रखा गया है, विच इज़ कॉल्ड एज रेड डाटा बुक, एंड दिस बुक इज़ पब्लिश्ड बाय IUCN. IUCN is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, and this book is maintained by IUCN. Headquarters of IUCN is in Switzerland. This is a slide showing endangered species of the world. Majestic elephants. Here are some endangered species of animals in India. Majestic elephants, Indian bison, here snow leopard, swamp deer, blue whale, desert cat, leaf monkey. These are the endangered species of animals in India. Then endangered species of plants in India. These are the endangered species of plants: baobab, berries, Dicaripis, cycas, etc. Red sandalwood is also a endangered species of plants in India. Then 2010 was the International Year of Biodiversity. It was celebration of life on earth and the value of biodiversity in our lives. Then we come to the next topic of biodiversity conservation. Biodiversity conservation means conserving the plants and animal species so that their number is stable. There are two basic strategies of biodiversity conservation. First is in situ or outside conservation, and second is ex situ conservation. Now we will discuss conservation of biodiversity. Biodiversity conservation means adopting such strategies that biodiversity is conserved, means living organisms, the population of the living organisms, the species diversity on earth is stable. There is no more extinction of the species. There are two methods of biodiversity conservation: in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. In situ conservation means outside, that is inside the natural home, and ex situ conservation. Firstly, in situ conservation. In situ conservation, an area with high biodiversity is isolated and protected from human activities. मीन्स इन सिटू कंजर्वेशन में लिविंग ऑर्गेनिजम्स जहाँ रह रहे हैं उनको वहीं रहने दिया जाता है, वहीं पे ही रूल्स बना दिए जाते हैं उनकी प्रोटेक्शन के लिए। ह्यूमन एक्टिविटीज़ जो हैं उनको रेस्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया जाता है ताकि वो प्रोटेक्टेड रहें। तो ऐसे मेथड्स को इन सिटू कंजर्वेशन के मेथड्स बोलते हैं और ये एसेंशियल है। कुछ स्पीशीज़ जैसे एलिफेंट्स, राइनो, टाइगर्स, उनके लिए इन सिटू कंजर्वेशन मेथड ज़्यादातर अडॉप्ट किया जाता है। इन सिटू कंजर्वेशन इज़ ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज प्रोटेक्टेड एरिया नेटवर्क। टिल नाउ इंडिया हैज़ 870 प्रोटेक्टेड एरिया across the country. Then in situ biodiversity, types of in situ biodiversity conservation. First is national park, second is wildlife sanctuary, and third is biosphere reserve. In all these three types, one thing is common, that hunting is banned, that cutting of trees is banned. There is some difference in the three. Firstly, national park. Here there are strict rules for the protection of animals. There is no human activity, there is no human settlements, there is no grazing in the national parks. At present, there are total 104 national parks in India. Second is wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuary, the rules are not so strict as in national parks. Here, human settlements, grazing, firewood collection, tourism, etc. These activities are allowed, which do not disturb the wildlife. These activities are allowed in wildlife sanctuary. Third is biosphere reserve. Biosphere reserves were established since 1971 when a program was run by UNESCO. The program was Man and Biosphere Program. In Biosphere Reserve, there are different areas, core areas where strict rules, no human activities are allowed. Buffer area. Here, some human activities which do not wildlife are allowed. And manipulative zone. Here, human settlements are also allowed. There are total 18 biosphere reserves in India. Now, this is the slide showing important national parks. You have to learn these national parks as if their places can be asked. First national park was Jim Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand. This is famous for tigers, leopards and wild elephants. Then other important parks are like Ranthambore National Park, Rajasthan, Corbett National Park, Uttarakhand, बांधवगढ़ नेशनल पार्क मध्य प्रदेश, पेरियार नेशनल पार्क केरला, कांचीरंगा नेशनल पार्क असम, सुंदरबंस वेस्ट बंगाल, कान्हा नेशनल पार्क मध्य प्रदेश, गिर वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी गुजरात, क्योलाडो नेशनल पार्क राजस्थान एंड मानस नेशनल पार्क in Assam. Then some important wildlife sanctuaries in India. Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary is in Kerala, Govind Wildlife Sanctuary is in Uttarakhand, Sambar Wildlife Sanctuary is in Rajasthan, Bori Wildlife Sanctuary is in Bhopal, Chilka Lake Bird Wildlife Sanctuary is in Odisha, and Hastinapur Wildlife Sanctuary in Ghaziabad. Then some other important sanctuaries in India. Important biosphere reserves: Great Run of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, Sundarbans West Bengal, Cold Desert Himachal Pradesh, Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. It is in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka. Panchmadi Biosphere Reserve is in Madhya Pradesh. Out of 18 biospheres of India, 9 are a part of World Network of Biosphere Reserve. These are Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, Gulf of Mannar, Sundarbans, Nanda Devi, Notek, Panchmari, Simplipal, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Then next is the second type of biodiversity conservation. Second method of biodiversity. First method we discussed was in situ conservation. In this method we discussed that organisms are not removed from their natural habitat. They remain there only and their only rules are made for their protection. But in ex situ conservation, it is an artificial home. In ex situ conservation, organisms are removed from their natural habitats and they are then protected in some other protected areas, like animals are protected in zoo or zoological parks, plants are protected in botanical gardens, seed banks are made for the seeds, gene banks are made. Cryopreservation is the method of storing tissues in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius, and aquaria are made for the aquatic animals. Then are some international efforts of biodiversity conservation. First effort is IUCN. IUCN is a union made in 1948 and it is the largest and most important conservation network for the conservation of natural resources. It is also called as World Conservation Union. Then United Nations Environmental Program that was started in 1972 and its headquarters are in Nairobi. They provide information on the state of planet, natural resources and their contribution to sustainable development. Then WCMC, it was a program, it was a center established under UNEP for monitoring the effectiveness of biodiversity conservation efforts made by UNEP, IUCN, WWF, etc. Then WWF, World Wildlife Fund for Nature. Earlier it was called as World Wildlife Fund. Now it is called as World Wildlife Fund for Nature. And these are different symbols for IUCN, UNEP, WCMSC and WWF. Some more efforts, international efforts of biodiversity conservation. UNESCO, founded in 1945, headquartered at Paris, France, and it is dedicated for the conservation of biodiversity. World Research Institute, it works for the sustainable use of biodiversity. Its headquarters are in Washington DC, United States. World Conservation Strategy, 1895. It was formulated by IUCN. Next is CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity. Given below are the symbols of different organizations, like it is United Nations Environmental Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, means UNESCO. It is World Resource Institution, it is WCS, and this is the symbol of Convention on Biological Diversity. Then some more efforts of biodiversity conservation at international level. Man and Biosphere Program, as I told you, in Biosphere Reserve also. It was run by UNESCO in 1970 and a program, this program established biosphere reserves in many countries of the world. And next is CITES, Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species, 1975, and this convention stopped the trade of endangered species, and was successful in preventing the illegal import of many rare species and animal products, and has been credited for saving the elephants from extinction. These are the symbols. Okay, till now we discussed the efforts which are done for biodiversity conservation at international level. Then some biodiversity conservation efforts in India. In India, Forest Conservation Act was established for conservation of forests in 1980. Wildlife Protection Act was there in 1972. Environmental Protection Act was there in 1986. National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan was there in 1999. Biological Biodiversity Bill was passed in 2002, where National Biodiversity Authority was established. Project Tiger was started with financial assistance from WWF in 1973. 870 protected areas are established in India for protection of biodiversity. India is a party to CITES. Establishment of Forest Survey of India was there in 1981, and in 1890 there was establishment of Botanical Survey of India. Establishment of WWF India was there in 1969, and establishment of Bombay Natural History Society was there in 1983. Some endangered wildlife special projects are also going on in India, like Gir Lion project for lions, for protection of lions in 1972. Project Tiger 1973, Crocodile Breeding Project 1974, Rhinoceros 1987, Snow Leopard Project, Project Elephant in 1992. Then is the topic of hotspot of biodiversity. Hotspot Biodiversity hotspot is a biogeographical region that is both a significant reservoir of biodiversity and threatened with destruction. Hotspot of biodiversity. Biodiversity hotspot is a geographical region that has a high degree of biodiversity and is threatened with destruction. To be classified as biodiversity hotspot, a region must have lost at least 70% of its original natural vegetation, and usually due to human activity. India is figured with two hotspots, Western Ghat and Eastern Himalayas. There are total 25 hotspot zones in world. Out of these, two are in India, Western Ghat in Sri Lanka and Indo-Burma region covering Eastern Himalayas. And they are included amongst top 8 most important hotspots. Firstly, Western Ghat. Western Ghat, faced with tremendous population pressure, the forests of Western Ghat and Sri Lanka have been dramatically impacted by demands of agriculture and timber. The region is home to rich endemic species of plants, reptiles, amphibians, as well as elephants, tigers, endangered lion-tailed macaque. The Eastern Himalayas. Himalayas is home to world's highest mountains, including Mount Everest. Abrupt rise in the rise of mountains result in diversity of ecosystem that range from alluvial grasslands and subtropical broad-leaved forests to alpine meadows. It is home to very large birds, mammals including tigers, elephants, rhinos, and wild water buffaloes. Then United States has proclaimed May 22 as the International Day of Biodiversity to increase the understanding and awareness of biodiversity issues. It is celebrated on 22 May as on 22nd May 1992 there was adoption of text of the Convention on Biological Diversity. This is all about biodiversity. Thank you.